Yeah, it's not a very long trek. It's just I got to see what's going on and make sure that I'm able. Once I commit, I'm committed. So I
All
don't
right.
back out.
All right. But I will say that if you do come, I think we'd love to kind of highlight, and we can do it another time also, highlight the Green Star Family project.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you.
Show them live.
I'm gonna try some other lighting just to see if
Yeah.
it brightens up a little bit.
Yeah. We want to see your pretty face.
Oh,
We're
that's
live
nice.
on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you guys for joining us here on social media on Veterans Breakfast Club. We're going to get the music started here and let everybody in.
Is that better or is that too bright?
That you're looking good. You're looking good, Matt. We see your pretty
Great.
face.
That's a little bright. Hold on, let me try the other one.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the Veterans Breakfast Club. I'm Todd DiPastino, and we are back together again with Sean Hall. Sean, it has been like a month since you and I have been on a program together. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing so much better that you're with me, the dynamic duo, back again.
That's right. You're Batman, I'm Robin. And tonight, Robin is going to be hosting, and Batman is going to be in the passenger seat or back seat or whatever it is. We are the Veterans Breakfast Club. We've been around since 2008, getting veterans together with members of the public to share stories and have conversations about any subject relevant to the military and veterans community. I am not a veteran. Sean is not a veteran, but that gives us the perfect opportunity to ask a lot of questions and to, try and dig into what makes veterans special, what makes them different, and what makes them endlessly fascinating, at least to me. We had a program scheduled tonight with Beth Russell that we are postponing. Beth had a death in the family. It took her out to Chicago, and she was involved with family stuff. And we had so many people submit questions to her about doing military records research. I think the number was over 26 or 28 people that if you know Beth, you know that she wanted to do her research. And so she was not able to do the kind of preparation for the program that she wanted. So we're going to defer it until later this year. And we'll let you know when that will be. So tonight, we thought just as a stopgap, we would have an open conversation. I haven't been involved in an open conversation in quite a while. I'm eager to hear what you want to talk about. I think I just saw Mary Klepper has a haircut. Nice haircut, Mary. You look good. I haven't seen you in quite some time. Good to see you, Mary. Haven't seen you in quite some time. Thank you for joining us. And Don Nemchek has his camera on. That's good. Barb Smith, you were just in Pittsburgh, Barb. Is fantastic. I just got somebody just sent a picture of them with you in
Ah,
Pittsburgh.
it was fabulous. I got to meet Larry Woods in person, Carmela, Nancy Cochran, Mr. Burke. It was fabulous. I wish we would have known we could have spent the night Saturday night and been there for throughout the whole night vigil. It was fabulous. It was just great.
And Larry Woods is much, much, much more handsome in person than he is on Zoom. I think you would agree.
In
Yes.
uniform, it was a moving experience.
Yes,
They
that
did
was
a fabulous job, and we got to meet Jessica Lynch. Such a great story that was. I did not know the details.
Larry, before we get into our general conversation, Larry Woods, you're part of the Vietnam Veterans Incorporated Honor Guard who were on duty this past weekend. Do you want to tell people what the Veterans Vigil is?
Yeah, at the POWMIA day that weekend, we have a vigil that starts at Saturday at noon and it goes till Sunday at noon. And there's a ceremony at noon to kick it off with a gun salute, playing of taps, and we do the first posting of the American flag, and we have it at Soldiers and Sailors Hall.
Mm-hmm.
We have someone hold the flag starting at noon, and then every 15 minutes we change post, and somebody else gets to take the flag, and we retire the flag from the person and hand it off to the next person, and that takes place for 24 hours. So it goes overnight until Sunday at noon. And then at 7 o'clock, we have our candlelight service, and usually a guest speaker. And as Barb said, this year, Jessica Lynch and yeah, our state senator, brain just went-
Devlin Robinson?
Devlin Robinson. And the reason Devlin spoke is because he was in the unit that was part of the rescue. He didn't enact the rescue, but he was in part of that rescue.
Larry, or anybody else, I'm just going to interrupt you just to ask, could you remind some people here on the program who Jessica Lynch is? Because, that I think that was 20 years ago, or maybe 22 years ago.
She was an Army specialist who was in a convoy, had only been in country in Iraq. They first went to Kuwait and they had moved into Iraq, and they were a smaller convoy that was mixed, that were, according to her, that were supposed to join up with a larger convoy, except their trucks couldn't keep up. And their first sergeant, who was new to them, made a decision to cut their unit in half. And the part of the unit that she was with, there were about 33 soldiers. They were about 19 hours behind the main convoy. They got lost, went into an area they shouldn't have been in, turned around and tried to get out of the area, and instead were attacked. The Humvee she was in, there were four of the five crew were killed, and she was wounded. She had a broken leg, broken femur. Her ankle got caught in the seat, and when the Taliban pulled her out, they broke her foot. She had a cracked vertebrae between fourth and fifth vertebrae, and large cut on her skull. And she was held captive for about 9 days in trying to move her back and forth in a hospital. They were going to take off her leg because they put in a device because the bone had been fractured, her femur. They put in a male bone for a female person, and she's small. It was the wrong size. She got infected. Within about the 9-day period, there was a unit that came in and extracted her. And the ironic thing is, it was a mixed service unit. So as they rescued her, the first person that got to her was actually an Air Force parajumper who tore off his American flag, put it in her hand, and said, "We're Americans. We're here to take you home." And they got her out, got her to Germany. She was put back together. She's healthy. She has a daughter that is now graduating college. She looks terrific. She is in great spirits, and it was just an inspiring story. And Devlin was part of the unit, although he said he was on the outskirts of town, but he was on part of that unit. And they did lose a number of people, both in the rescue and in the attack on her unit. She's actually from West Virginia, and just a terrific young lady. So it was nice that and because she had been a POW, she was the first female American POW, and then to be rescued. So it was
since World War II.
Yes, since World War II. So it was really cool. We always have a speaker. Usually they have a powerful story to tell, but to have Jessica there was kind of special that night.
John Kramer, you're holding up "I Am a Soldier Too." That is a picture of Jessica Lynch, correct?
Yeah, that's her. That's the memoir she wrote.
Right.
That's a very nice book.
When the crew came in to rescue her, they said, "You're okay. We're American soldiers." And she looked up at them and said, "I am a soldier too." That was where that came from. Indeed, she was. And she pleaded with the Iraqis to not amputate her leg. And why they followed her direction was incredible. She walks with barely a limp, nothing else. It's just incredible what the medical teams have done for her, our American teams. God bless them all. And we also saw Chris Perillo there and took some pictures of him holding the flag during that 15-minute ceremony. He was a nice young man. Yeah.
Chris Perillo's a nice young man?
Yes, much younger in person.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, he is a nice young man.
I'm not so sure about being that young. If Chris is on, he has a great story for you to to let you know what you did to him.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What did I do to him? Okay, well, I'm sure I'll hear.
If he's on, Chris will tell you.
Okay. Hey, I want to let people know we have an event coming up in the Philadelphia area. We don't normally talk too much about our in-person events here. We do a lot of them, about 40 of them a year. And we do a few of them each year in the eastern part of the state. And we have one coming up on Thursday. That'll be Thursday, September 25th. And we're going to have it at Montgomery County Community College. This is a free breakfast. The college and the county Veterans Affairs Office is going to be paying for it. And we're going to do what we usually do at our breakfast, which is a half an hour to have breakfast and then 90-minute program where we go around the room and have veterans share stories. So if you are in the area of Montgomery County, PA, around Philadelphia, maybe just over the border in New Jersey, we'd love to have you come and join us. It should be a wonderful time. I will be there. And that's Thursday, September 25th.
What time does it begin? What time does it begin?
Oh my
please?
gosh, Barb, you're not going to drive from Oberlin, Ohio to Philadelphia.
Oh, probably not.
8:30 begins at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping Matt Cahill, who just lives across the border in New Jersey, in Swedesboro,
correct. Yeah,
Swedesboro, which was once a Swedish colony, was it not?
it was definitely.
People don't think about that Swedish colony. Matt, I want to introduce Matt Cahill. I think you joined us last week for our program, and I'm very happy that you're able to join us tonight for open conversation, because not only are you an Army veteran, a 26-year Army medic in many different roles as an Army medic, I think, and also Air National Guard, correct?
No, just regular Army National Guard in Pennsylvania.
Army National Guard in Pennsylvania. And but you also founded and have launched and have pushed this really interesting project called Green Star Families of America. I've never quite heard of anything like it. And I want to invite the people on tonight to comment, ask questions, and give their thoughts on this project. It's I'm gonna share my screen and have people. Here we go. Have people see what we're talking about. This is Green Star Families of America. You may be familiar with Gold Star families and Blue Star families. Matt, what's a Green Star family?
Green Star Family is a mission to have the families who've lost their veteran to suicide recognized, to join the two other federally recognized banners, like you said, is the Blue Star and the Gold Star service banners. The main push for this is so that these families can be recognized and that we can provide them with the appropriate benefits that would serve them to heal in a way that will make it so that generationally, if the dependents would like to join the military at a later time, that they will be healthy and strong and ready and want to continue the family lineage and join the military, as well as make sure that it's not improper benefits that would possibly be a reason for a veteran to choose suicide.
Oh boy!
And I can get more into that in a second.
Let's get into this, Matt. This is so interesting and important to me. And Matt, I don't know if you know, but I'm a historian, so I love this history. The history of the Blue Star Banner and the Gold Star banners. You know, it goes back to World War I, and then in World War II, the Blue Star banner became popular. Whenever a family would have somebody in the military, you would hang this star, and every once in a while you'll still see somebody hang this star, this banner in their window, and that indicates that somebody in the household is in the military. And then often during World War II, that Blue Star banner would come out and be replaced, sadly, by the Gold Star banner, which indicated that that person who was in the military was killed in action. And those are the two kind of official, I think, federally recognized, or you may say congressionally recognized organizations that have that service banner, the Gold Star and the Blue Star. So you're saying, Matt, that somebody who serves, who then comes home, they're troubled, they end up taking their own life. they don't fall under either service banner. They're not considered Gold Star families, correct? The survivors.
That is correct. Yep, they're not considered anything. Following the stigma of mental health and suicide, pretty much a lot of times you've got 30 days if active duty to get off that post, the whole family, and goodbye. If out in the community, such as the National Guard and the reserves, you lose your ID card, you're not allowed back on post or onto the National Guard unit's property, technically, because you now have no affiliation. And a lot of times the commanders don't really know what to say to the family and don't know kind of how to treat them or handle them. And so that it winds up with this major disconnect that, I mean, in my units, we've all been very close, like family. And, there may be some people that still talk to that family and that kind of thing. But for a large part, there's really no true way to deal or associate with that family.
Boy,
and we'd like to see that change. I mean, when you go through a loss like that, you need your community, you need your people, you need to be able to talk and vent and just be there to help. And with this type of stigma and stuff, it really alienates and disassociates these families from what they've known.
So Matt, just by way of contrast, let's say a family, a spouse and children live on base. The family member who is in the military gets deployed. They get sent overseas. They are killed in action, in combat. This family now living on base is now a Gold Star family. What happens to them? Are they allowed to stay on base? I mean, are they still, do they remain part of that community?
They do, very largely. They get assigned a casualty affairs officer, and that officer and the NCO that's assigned to them stay their representative until that officer or that NCO passes away, for life. So they are assigned to them for life to help them negotiate and navigate all the nuances of the military. And we all know how challenging that can be half the time. And just getting an ID card and trying to figure out which office you report to now to get the ID card. And I mean, all those minor intricacies that are very difficult to figure out and such. From there, they also have a lifetime of an ID card so that they can access the base, use the PX, the commissary. They are afforded those benefits. There's a whole lot more. There is, when I was in, and according to the manual, a $500,000 payout, $100,000 has to be done within the first 24 hours of notification. There are educational benefits that are applied to those families now. There is TRICARE, that's health insurance that's applied to those families, and so many other things that Gold Star families receive, and rightfully so. I definitely agree with it 100%, being a veteran, being from a veteran family. That was always the hallowed reverend banner that no matter what, you showed the utmost respect and you treated that family, whether it was a private or a colonel or anybody, like the most respect ever.
And by contrast, Green Star families, what we would call Green Star families, they're kind of left adrift in the sense that there are no benefits. There's no continuation of any kind of services on base or off base, right?
There's not even an office that collects the information to report a veteran's suicide to. So there's no true real number that anybody can report on 100% accurately because there's never been an office that's collecting this information.
And Matt, I'm not necessarily endorsing Green Star Families of America, but I would think that at least not yet, that is. But I would think that having just the designation, just the banner, just the sense that you could say, I'm a member of a Green Star family, or I'm a Green Star family member, just that would add a sense of community, belonging, giving it a name, a dignified name, and a way to identify other people who have experienced, because otherwise you kind of live in the shadows, I would imagine.
Right. So if we go back to the creation of the Blue Star and the Gold Star, and when the Blue Star turned to gold, that was a way for that family within a community to not have to answer 100 questions like, hey, how's Johnny doing? Hey, I know Johnny went off to war. Hey, I know. They
Yes.
didn't have to answer that. When that star turned from blue to gold, it's like, oh, okay, hey, we want to pay our condolences. Hey, we want to, be there for the family, or just let them know. And this is one of those things that is very controversial as far as, do we want to separately recognize these families solely for the reason that they lost their veteran to suicide, or do we not want to do that because it's kind of spotlighting them, if you will?
Yeah, and I want to get into that. Al Smith, Al, I just had you unmuted. I know there was some background noise, but Al, you put an interesting question here in the chat. I thought you'd pose it to Matt.
Yeah, Matt, I'm just curious. Is this any kind of suicide? In other words, let's say there's someone who serves in a non-combat area, is in administrative work, whatever. After 2 years, gets out of the service, finds that his wife is having an affair and kills his wife, and then takes his own life. Is that covered too?
Boy.
Right now, we would say yes. And the main reason why we would encompass all of the suicides is until we can get a good handle on what and why suicide occurs, everything needs to be studied. Now, does that contribute and qualify that person for the benefits? The benefits that we're looking to put up are to heal, or, would it help the family be able to heal so that they can continue in a healthy manner? There by no means will be a $500,000 payout. There by no means will be educational benefits and all these extra things. What we would like to see are proper benefits being put in place, such as, you have health insurance for behavioral health resources here, go out and go through the therapy so that you can heal. Hey, you never did the books. Let's say there's a wife who was, say, married from the Philippines and that kind of stuff. There would be an assistance to help them be able to manage and deal with their books, not give them money straight out, not, hey, this is the scenario I always like to use is, if I'm a veteran and I'm struggling, I can't get a job, health insurance is through the roof, I'm doing the best that I can, and my wife gets diagnosed with terminal cancer, or one of my kids winds up with a very bad issue and they need the health insurance. Why would I not choose suicide to take care of my family if these benefits were the benefits that would be received from my suicide?
Mm-hmm.
Which is happening. Here's the really, really surprising part. Many organizations are trying to put these families under Gold Star. There are some Green Star families who are counted as Gold Stars. And we're trying to reverse that and stop that.
And why is that? Why is that, Matt? Could you go into that?
Because we don't want the benefits to be the reason why a veteran would choose suicide, number one. Number two, we feel that it tarnishes the Gold Star's honorableness and the reverence of the Gold Star. Because if they do wind up being able to do this, then the benefits for the Gold Stars will diminish so as to not be a reason why someone would choose suicide, which means that the families that did suffer the veteran suicide would get plussed up with benefits that may be a reason for a veteran to choose. So it's a very, very murky, difficult situation, but we feel it's time to have these hard conversations and stand on principles like, don't diminish the Gold Star service banner. Do not place families that don't belong under there. And it's really surprising at how many organizations are resisting coming up with a Green Star.
Okay.
So,
and what is the major arguments that you hear against it?
the biggest, loudest one that I've heard is that it is not appropriate to separate and single out these families. And we don't agree. Like you said, the families really utilize this as the very first beginning to way to heal. We now have a name. I now know that I can consider myself a Green Star, and that means I'm part of a community that we can put these families together so that they can heal the way they need to heal properly. When you take a Gold Star let's say, family who said goodbye to their veteran. They wind up receiving their veteran home and under a flagged casket. They go through bereavement classes through TAPS and that kind of organization. They say goodbye, and their veterans, interred wherever that is. That's pretty much done. That's it. When a veteran comes home and is suffering from conditions either on the battlefield or from just longevity of service, or, the training has become so realistic now, it's more like you are so in the real life scenario that most people who have experienced combat are like, oh, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought it was in my head. And they can rationalize those fears. Whereas when you constantly are afraid of something because you've never really experienced it, it keeps working on you mentally. It keeps working on you and working on you. And other life situations, as described by Al, I believe, with the wife cheating and that kind of stuff, that can usually lead to a veteran who needs assistance, who's not receiving the appropriate assistance, as we've all heard, and I've lived through it myself, 3 months between EA therapy sessions. Just recently, I went 2 weeks, and my very first therapy session from Wilmington, Delaware was a no-call, no-show on the therapist's side. And then my third appointment was a no-call, no-show, with a call back a half an hour later saying, we can do it now. I'm sorry, I've already gone past the point that I can talk to you in the nicest manner I could. So there are a huge need for resources. There is a huge need for alternative ways of approaching this issue, because I believe what we've been doing for the last 10, 20 years is not working.
It ain't working. Bob Bombard, you put something in the chat here. I want you to pose your question to Matt if you could. And then
Matt,
I see you, Rich Kensinger. I'll go to you next.
Matt, there are several things here that come to my mind. Family support is available through, out of my voice here, is available through the National Alliance on Mental Illness. There is an excellent affiliate in Gloucester, New Jersey. There's also one down in Salem County. There are several over at the shore in Atlantic County, Ocean County, across there. And these organizations are very good. I can tell you that because I personally was helped by them. When my son came home from the Navy, he was suffering from schizophrenia, and NAMI really helped me. And I ended up being an advocate for mental illness for about 20 years. That's the first thing, is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And they are a wonderful organization. And if you'd like, if you contact me, and I will, Todd can give you my information. That's the first thing. The second one is that at the Bordentown Armory of the National Guard, that's about maybe an hour away from you. The Guard has set up, and I can remember working with the generals from the Guard, the Adjutant General, putting this together. The armory is completely devoid of any military function. It is a support facility replete with social workers, and anyone can go in there, active duty, reservists, veterans, and go in there and get assistance when they need it. And there's no, there's no feedback to anyone else that the individual is going for help. They do a wonderful job, and I can get you tied into there. And the third thing I want to tell you, there are veterans PTSD support groups, and there's one that meets in Bordentown. There's one that meets in I know in Medford. They're all through the state, and you just have to research them, and they do a wonderful job. The one in Bordentown is phenomenal. I sat in on a session, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It is administered by I started out with 8 people. He worked it up to 240 people, and now anywhere from 50 to 75 people show up on a Monday at 10 o'clock at the Town and Country Diner in Bordentown. And Major Hathaway, one of our key players here, attends there every. He wouldn't miss a day because he needs it from his experiences in Vietnam. He was a combat photographer. So those are the 3 things that you can get into, and I can assist you on any of these things if you so desire.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. And I mean, absolutely no disrespect, but what I'm talking about specifically here are family members.
Those are veterans, family members too.
Those are veterans
NAMI
programs.
Is for family members.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was just tracking that it was for veterans and that kind of stuff. No. Okay, I'd love that information, because as of right now, I really don't know of specific programs that do assist families. I do know that vet centers, as long as a Green Star family takes their veterans DD-214 to a vet center, they can receive treatment free of charge.
Right.
But as I know of specifically, they cannot go to a VA with a DD-214. They would have to do a process to get, DIC started, which is a benefit that is offered through trying to put these families under Gold Star. But other than that, the programs that are offered by like TAPS and that kind of stuff and that kind of assistance is nothing more than just, hey, we're going to run this program. I believe there's one in Colorado coming up soon. You have to figure out how to get here. You have to pay for your own hotel. You have to do everything. The program, once you're at the location, is free for these families, but there's no assistance getting them there or anything else like that.
No. And that's what I'm telling you about is all local. And
understood.
I would start by just Googling after this program is over. Google NAMI, NAMI, New Jersey. Just plug in there, and there's a whole section on that website that deals with veterans, and they will deal with the individual, but that the primary purpose is the family member, not the individual.
Thank you very much, Bob. I want to go to Rich Kensinger.
Hi. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I do extensive research on combat trauma and particularly suicide. I would be willing to share my research with you. You can't get it on ResearchGate. You have to be connected to a university, which I am. But I'd be willing. I did put my email for anybody who'd be interested in looking at that, and to serve as a consultant to you related to these suicides. We do know that males are 4 times more likely to complete suicide. Women are less likely to complete it, but they're more likely to try it. So I'd be willing to share it. I think Bob is right about NAMI. I've worked closely when I was a psychotherapist, worked closely with NAMI. Tremendous resource. So again, my email is in if anybody wants, but if you particularly, Matt, want some of my material, I'll share it with you.
Thank you very much, Rich. I appreciate that. I'm sure Matt does too. Matt, what does it take? What will it take? Does it need to be congressional legislation? Does there need to be a bill introduced and passed?
Yes, we've actually had 3 bills introduced and passed Congresses. This is the first year that one hasn't been introduced yet, but we have switched representatives. The 3 previous bills were introduced under Representative Andrew. And this year we're working with a bipartisan group, actually, Rob Bresnahan and Representative Madeline Dean, to co-sponsor and put the bill forth through Pennsylvania. But we've also had at the state level, Kentucky, a representative has put it forth. I did actually have a slide with all that information on it, but was just approached on Saturday by Representative, and I don't have her card with me. She would like to put it up within the state. Pennsylvania Representative Genst is going to be drafting a bill and sending it forward to the Veterans Affairs Committee. And a New Mexico representative has reached out to us about 3 weeks ago, and we're working with his office to get a bill drafted as well. So
That's terrific. Joe Griffiths.
Good evening, everyone. I've been working with suicide for 55 years. I remember about 6 or 7 years ago down on Oregon Avenue at the Marines' birthday, a young Iraq veteran got up on the stage with 10,000 Marines on Oregon Avenue. It's a big ceremony every year. And he said, 25 suicides a day, 175 a week, 800 a month, 9,600 a year, 96,000 over 10 years. When are we going to stop talking and do something? So about 4 years ago, and we're never going to stop suicide. Suicide is a way of life, I believe. I think Mr. Kissinger would agree to that. But we can slow it down if only people will listen. So I got invited to the Leocore Center on Broad Street about 4 years ago to a conference that was being held by the Military Basketball Association out of Colorado. Mike Myers was the founder, the director of the Philadelphia VA, and they had a press conference. And the subject was Mike Myers came back from his couple tours in Afghanistan and had thoughts of suicide, couldn't sleep, depression, anxiety. But when he was on the basketball court, it all left. So he called a buddy of his. And when Mike would get deployed, he was a major combat infantry. When he came back, he was the athletic director of Fort Carson, Colorado. So he called Angel and he said, listen, how about if we put a military basketball program together? And they did. So now instead of on a base, the MPs playing, the Cooks playing, the drill sergeants, they now taken it to 58 military bases where they play basketball against one another. 16 women teams, military bases play against one another. We're in 9 countries overseas, military bases. So he's given a lecture, and I stood up and I said, I want to share a story about the Wounded Warrior Project that was started by the Philadelphia Flyers in Philadelphia. They took men and women, Wounded Warrior soldiers, and put them on a hockey team. Now, they had to know how to skate. They were going to teach you how to skate. A lot of these guys and women that go to college, played college hockey, and they showed up. And they haven't had a suicide in 12 years. A guy that the equipment manager, the coaches, nobody has committed suicide that they have on record. So Mike's trying to do things, same thing with basketball. I got involved about 4 years. I sit on their board. It's military basketball. We have a big convention the Sunday before Memorial Day at the Leocore Center. We get governors there. We get politicians there. We get everybody. I think we have to start doing things. I have phone numbers. If Jim Roberts wants to go play golf in San Diego, he's going to be there for a month. We'll give him a number. There'll be veterans there to play golf with. If you want to get in a bowling league, if you want to play tennis, there are veterans organizations, weightlifters, gyms. Many women own gyms around the country. Our goal is the average veteran sees a psychiatrist once a month for 55, 60 minutes. The other 29 days they're on their own. But if I can get Jim and Paul to bowl 2 nights a week, we can help one another if we're having a bad day. We can fill in some of the gaps of that 29 days, 30 days in a month that are empty. It's proven we haven't had a suicide amongst all the couple thousand members of the military basketball since 2016. Now, I've only been with them for the past 4 years, and we are working on getting the VA to fund these programs, fund these gyms to make it work, along with acupuncture, chiropractic care, yoga, psychology, psychiatry. If we can fund programs, even checkers and chess, book reading clubs where veterans are around veterans.
Yeah. Joe,
we can make it work. And one last thing. The VA during the pandemic removed all, and I was just on Washington. I was with Vision 4 today out of Pittsburgh, Sean. talking to one of the directors, telling them we have to put the chessboards and the checkerboards back in the lobbies of the VA, where a lot of retired veterans that live in the area go every day, that live alone in one-room apartments, but they go for an hour or two, they get a cup of coffee, they play checkers and chess. Now, they took the checkers and the chessboards out during the pandemic for some reason I don't know, that they thought, Todd, you and I are playing chess, and if I picked up your pawn or your rook, I could die. So we're now working to get these, because it's veterans around veterans, filling that gap in between their psychology meetings. These programs work, and as long as we can get veterans to show up twice a week, 3 times a week, it'll fill that gap when they're alone. And if I'm having a bad day, Todd, you can spot me and you can help me.
Thank you, Joe.
These are the programs we got to use.
And that's prevention. Absolutely is what we're after. Matt, you're going for something a little bit different, and that is supporting the families, especially of those who've already committed suicide. I do want to ask you, Matt, I know this is a very personal thing for you. You have a cousin, Wes Donnelly, who committed suicide. I want to show his picture and his obituary here. Can you tell us a little bit about your cousin, Wes? Oh, I'm sorry. I think is this the right one? Yeah, here it is. This is Wes.
He was many years behind me in the military. I remember him coming up to me to talk to me in middle school and high school at family gatherings and everything. And, I try not to heavily influence when I was in, because, God forbid something bad happens and that kind of thing. But he followed his own course, joined the military, and was doing really well. He wound up going overseas and was part of a human team. It's a human intelligence group where you pretty much utilize humans in the area to report back, give information, work with the United States. And some very bad things can happen when the enemy finds out that a local villager's working or cooperating with the United States. And I think he saw just a little bit too much of that. And upon his return, there was a long period, probably about a year and a half, or, I forget. My memory is very clouded due to the frustration, I'll be quite honest with you. But I do know that his mother and father worked very, very hard getting him into Walter Reed numerous times, Bethesda numerous times, still coming out of the programs or his stays and still having the same difficulties. Nothing was really working. And then other medications that he was on combined with alcohol was, I think, his way of saying, I just can't do this anymore.
No.
And it was really tough, and it's a struggle. For the longest time, I never even revealed when I did talk about Green Star and the concept when I was born in 2020, obviously. That rocked me pretty hard in March. And with the next person I think you're going to show, his death was in August, and that one affected me so much that I couldn't even talk for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I've never experienced that. I've lost my mother, I've lost my brother, and I've never been affected the way I was with both of their deaths upon others. And, in his honor and in his duty for his daughter and his wife, I really believe that this is our generation's service banner. That this is history making, that we need to stop the stigmas with suicide, with mental health. We need to bring it to light. We need to talk about it openly, and we just need to treat it like any other condition, disease, order, whatever you want to call it.
And the other person you were very close to was Andy McCaffrey. Could you tell us about him?
Yeah. So Andy and I met back in 1994, 95-ish. When I came from Korea and was assigned to the 101st Airborne with the 326 engineers, I was a medic and he was an engineer coming out of the Marine Corps. And he was the first one who let me do sutures on him in the field. I had just gotten certified by my PA, and he's like, "Don't worry, Doc, you got it." And his voice still rings in my head when I'm challenged with certain situations, but we remained friends, and he decided he wanted to go Special Forces, and I decided I wanted to return home to go to Hahnemann's Physician Assistant Program. So we separated. I got out of the active Army and came to the National Guard. We remained friends over the years, and so proud of him when he became Special Forces qualified and his beret and everything. But he was injured in, I believe it was Afghanistan, when he was handling EOD or unexploded ordnance, and a grenade went off on his right hand, as you can see, pretty much from mid forearm down. He didn't let that slow him down, though. He was told he was disqualified now from remaining SF and deploying, and he said, nah. So he trained very hard to be able to. There was one thing he always told me, where you have to transition between your rifle to the pistol and back again, as well as jump qualified and all that. And he fought his way back and deployed a few more times after that.
So he deployed a few more times, even though he didn't have a right hand.
That's correct.
Wow.
That is correct. They gave him a prosthetic where he was able to, with the muscles in your upper arm, when you tense certain muscles, it acts like your trigger finger. So he requalified and re-zeroed his weapon, and I'm gonna be quite honest. He was a badass.
Yeah,
he is a badass. Then when they finally told him, like, okay, that's it, like, you seriously can't deploy anymore, he got onto the Army's Special Olympic type of team, and did the triathlons and just was unstoppable. When he finally was driven out, and I won't get into that story, but he got real heavy into yoga. He became a yogi, I think that's what it's called, and everything. And I laughed at him because that's what you do. Just like he laughed at me with doing equine therapy and everything. But his demons just couldn't be quelled. And from hearing the story, he woke up pretty much in the middle of the night, early morning, and that was it. And it was a shock. It wasn't like you saw warning signs or he had been depressed or all of a sudden he got elated and happy and stuff. It was just, he was dealing with so much for so long, and just that really just shook my world. And I was like, how do I address these families? I want to call my cousin's mom, a formal title. Like, there was nothing. And still, there is no name for veteran suicide. It's 22 a day. Well, that's a statistic, and it's an off statistic, but we can't solve a problem until we name it. So why aren't we naming it? Why is the government not looking at this as a military or even a medical way of approaching this, where you come up with a name, you define it, you then collect evidence, you work on it, you devise a plan, you attack the plan, and you figure out a way to reduce this. I keep pulling up the statistic just for those who don't know, but we're literally sitting at more than 140,000 veteran suicides, 140,000 versus 7,085 that we lost in both wars combined altogether since 2001 till the end of global war on terrorism. 7,085 compared to 140,000.
I want to throw it open for questions to Matt. I mean, one thing that I would love you to share, Matt, is how people can learn more about Green Star Families of America, how they could support your efforts, and how they could direct any questions or concerns that they might have. Do we have any other comments, questions, concerns? I'm so impressed by Al Smith's difficult question that he posed, and I'm even more impressed by Matt's candid answer. Pat Hughes is holding a 22 a day bracelet there. That is the.
If I can say something,
yeah, please do. Because that's a statistic that we hear a lot, and I'm not quite sure how true it is anymore.
Be honest here, please, guys, ladies, everybody. We're in the final stages of actually getting this stuff passed and approved, and I want to hear everything and any question that can come up. The most interesting one that was approached to me, and it was real recently, was, what about the right of assisted suicide? Would that family be considered Green Star? That one was a good question. I had to take a step back for a second, and from my research, I believe that they would not be considered a Green Star, and the reason for that is because before the government allows for an assisted suicide, lots of therapy goes on, not only with the person who chooses this, but the family as well.
Okay.
So they would be set up and they would be taken care of, and they know what's coming. The families we really want to take care of are those ones who aren't as well connected or know who to turn to find where they can go militarily for help or assistance or to have certain benefits. As I spoke with Andy McCaffrey's daughter, she was overwhelmed at one point in time while she was traveling. And all she wanted to do was be able to go up to a USO and sit in the quiet and just take a minute. And she did not have the ability to do that because she did not have an ID card. Now, if we can just give an ID card to dependents so that they can take those minutes to go in shelter for a minute.
Yeah.
And hopefully run across one of us who will absolutely provide her with information or care. Why can't we do that?
Matt, unless we have other questions, I know Rich has something else to say, but unless we have other questions, apart from Rich, I do want you to let people know how they could support what you're doing or find out more.
Sure. Easiest way to constantly see where we're at and what we're doing. We keep our website very updated. That's greenstarfamilies.org. You can email me. I'm always willing to get and talk to people. So Matt.Cahill, as it appears on the screen, at greenstarfamilies.org. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. I can't figure out how to use X and other platforms. So
and if anybody has any problem reaching Matt, they could always reach me, Todd at veteransbreakfastclub.org. Nancy Cochran, my friend here, I guarantee you it's going to be an interesting and thoughtful question. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Todd. I just really want to thank Matt and others for this conversation. This is an important American conversation, and I just want to weep as I think about these families.
Yep.
I wish so much that Matt could get in touch with some funding sources, some Americans who care about suicide and who will help him be able to afford the resources and the advocacy that is so needed on this issue nationally. This is something that's getting worse. It's not going to get better, and we owe it to those who have died because of suicide, because of their military service. We owe it to them to bring some important new emphasis to this difficulty. And I really, Matt, want you to know that I'm really touched. I'm praying. I'm wishing that you had more resources so that you could help bring more services and more understanding to all those who love veterans.
Well, thank you, Nancy. And you bring up a very good point. So I've applied for, and I'll be honest with everybody here, 18 grants since January.
Okay.
And the problem is that grants are very specific, right? So they don't like lobbying. And I'm not technically lobbying, I'm educating.
No,
Right.
you're
But I
advocating.
didn't qualify
Yes.
for those grants. A lot of things in the grant world are tech specific. I've had contacts of, hey, we like Green Star's concept, but we want you to push our AI therapist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. It's unproven. We haven't seen it work, and I can't sell my soul to the devil for the mission that I'm on.
No.
So in time, as it gets aware and the word out, and there's a great program coming up that I applied for. It's at the Union League. It's called the Veterans Fellowship Program. I've applied for that, and it starts in January. So I'm hoping the professionals there and the business owners there can have good concepts as to how we can fundraise and hopefully create grants with, hey, send us ideas, and if we think it's a great idea, we'll fund it, you know? Plus, it is still kind of controversial. I mean, we're fighting very big organizations like Gold Star, TAPS, MOAA, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. All these organizations, if you read the Washington Post, there was an article written where the Pentagon finally came back in December and said, we're not going to put these families under Gold Star.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't want to be that person, but I kind of have to suspect that if there's 140,000 suicides
Right.
with only 7,000 combat losses, financially, I'd want those families under mine.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm really, I don't want to think that. I don't want to think that about these organizations, but at the same time, why are you fighting me so hard? And why can't we just have open conversations? TAPS has been really good with Bonnie Carroll. We've had like 8 good conversations and had a lot of the back and forth, so that I can test this to make sure that I'm covering all bases. But still, it came down to, sorry, but we do have to give you this letter that we just can't support this concept because we are singling out a mental condition technically. You know what I mean? But I think this is a whole new generation. I think this is a whole new way that we need to approach this. I believe suicide specifically needs to be rediscovered without other lenses that would cloud it and bring other judgments into it.
I agree.
And hopefully, I am. It's not my choice to be doing this. I am pushed to do this, and I don't have a choice. The universe has specifically told me, you need to go, whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it whatever you want. This is the mission I'm on. I mean, thankfully, my beautiful wife understands, and she's like, when you're driven, you're driven.
Yeah.
And I've never been driven about anything this much in my whole entire life. So.
Yeah.
Matt, I feel like the past hour I've wanted to cry and I've, forced myself not to. I've wanted to smile. I could hear in your voice that this is something that chose you. You didn't choose it. And that's very, very familiar to me. I do want to ask Rich, I think you put a wonderful question here in the chat. Have Matt talk about his work as a medic. But I want to first go to Bill Confer. Bill.
Yeah. Hi. I would like to know from Matt, if you could tell me what did MOA tell you about not supporting the Green Star?
I have not contacted MOA directly. I am taking this information from that Washington Post article in which the letter from the MOAA was submitted to the government, I believe the Pentagon, to change the definition for Gold Star. And if you read that, there's like 2 or 3 page listings of all the veterans organizations that at the time signed on and agreed to change the definition. But since then, the VFW, Wounded Warrior, and one other organization I can't recall right now, did back away from agreeing to change the definition for Gold Star. And I will be more than happy to post that link on my social media, my webpage, because I believe it's a very important article.
Yeah, it is a very important article. We've discussed it here on another open conversation, and we should share it and discuss it again. Bill, what were we going to say?
Yeah, I'd like to get that information if I could, or that link, so I could at least go back to MOA. I was past president of our chapter here in Lancaster County. Just for your information, Matt, this is kind of timely for me. I'm going to a funeral for somebody that committed suicide this Saturday.
My condolences, sir, and I will definitely get in touch with you.
Thank you.
And provide this link all over the place.
Matt, I think maybe this is making a wild connection, but I think your fearlessness in tackling this very difficult issue and question, and your fearlessness in kind of fielding, challenges to your concept and adjusting as you go, comes in some way from your long career as a medic, where you are confronting, difficult situations all the time, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. It's always felt like a battle between me and both God and the devil. I'm here doing what I can do at the best of my knowledge at the time, to stop bleeding if someone's bleeding, to bring breathing back if breathing has stopped. And I've always committed my life to being not just the medic that sits around and smokes and jokes and doesn't care. I've always taken this seriously.
Right.
I didn't join for college money. My father was a Vietnam veteran. He became a drill sergeant shortly after he returned from Vietnam, and then he stayed in the Pennsylvania National Guard up to the rank of major. And my grandfather was a machinist in World War II in the Navy. So I've never looked at this as, hey, this is what I'm using it for, or any misnomers that one day I wouldn't be in war. I've always trained that that time would come, and that I wanted to be the best that could be, because I wanted to bring everybody home.
Yeah.
And except for one on my deployment, two, but one was beyond my control. There's still one that I hold myself accountable for, but losing them all when we get home is just inexcusable to me. And I'm still working, and I'm not going to stop. So
please, I do ask people if they want to contact Matt, you could email him at matt.cahill@greenstarfamilies.org. You can reach him by going to greenstarfamilies.org. He's also on different social media, and you could also connect to me and the Veterans Breakfast Club if you'd like to connect to Matt. Matt, thank you so much for coming and sharing this information and your mission and some of your story.
thank you all for listening and asking questions. I appreciate everybody. I seriously do.
I hope you'll stay in touch and let us know of any progress or updates that you get. All right.
Most definitely.
All right.
That would be an honor. Thank you.
I'm going to really change the subject here tonight. We had a program a week ago with Army Security Agency veterans, and I think anybody who was on that program who watched it, the YouTube version of it, after the fact, can attest that it was wide ranging. It was very active. It was fascinating. These men, and they were all men, I think, were really sharp people, but they were Army. And there were people in the Navy who did the equivalent work, and in the Air Force that did the equivalent work. And we had some interesting back and forth about this device. This is a typewriter, right? What is this? Is it more than a typewriter? Would it be called a teletype?
Teletype, I think.
What is a teletype exactly?
Early computer, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think of it, Bill.
Yeah.
I think that I think teletypes were at one point the most complicated machines that we had. They really were. I'm gonna see if I could show other pictures. There were early teletypes. They had enormous numbers of parts. We had a number of guests on last week who were teletype repair people, because they were so fragile. They involved so many different moving parts, and they were so difficult to fix. And they were essential to encrypted communications. So did we have anybody here who worked on teletypes? I ask you, Don Nemchek.
Yes, Todd. I worked not on teletypes as a TTY repairman. I worked as an operator on teletypes, and they were very interesting. We used to call the teletype repairmen machine medics because, again, of the numerous little parts that they would come in and repair for us. But this is a picture, an image of a fleet center, and as you can see, the tape hanging down on printers and transmission devices and things like this. It was just a very interesting time because you could multiply that by about 30 guys at these different stations, and the cacophony of sound.
I can't
The
imagine.
printers printing. You got burpees spitting out teletype tape at about 1,000 characters a minute. You could never speak at a normal term. Well, sailors don't speak in normal voices anyhow, but you have to communicate with each other. But at the height of the bombing in 71, I was stationed at Naval Communications Station, Guam Fleet Center, and we were ship-to-shore communications with the ships out in the Gulf of Tonkin. Oftentimes, there was 3 carrier groups out in the Gulf of Tonkin flying operations day and night, and our duty was ramped up to where we were 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and oftentimes you would just stay over because you could just see those tapes hanging down. I know it looks trivial, but this you couldn't let things hit the ground. If you didn't catch up with your tape, you would be knee deep in teletype. So you had a wrapper-upper. Okay, I might be the keyboard operator, but I had a guy butterflying my tapes for me to eventually send them out. And what was even more interesting is we had such a backlog. Messages were designated flash, immediate, priority, and routine. We would not send any priority and routine tapes out to clog up the airwaves. It was only flash and immediate tactical messages only. They would gather up the priority and routines in burn bags and fly them out to the ships, let them print it out over there and distribute them. It was really something. Right after I got out, they switched everything over to a more computer automated system. But what's very interesting to the audience, I went to communications school in 1971, January 71, and 16 weeks, a lot of typing and CW, Morse code for first 8 weeks. Then the other 8 weeks was electronics, crypto gear, security types of things like that. We never learned anything about tape or the bauded code, which is a binary code that the computers read. And I got to my duty station after my clearance came through. We all had top secret special category clearances because of the nature of the messages we were handling. And got in on board, and the division chief was, well, hey, Nem, over here, there's your station. Go up there, go, learn to send tapes, get with some of the guys. And I said, what the hell are you talking about tapes? Where's the Morse code headphones at and things like that? All the guys look at you like, dude, it's not like that here, man. And it was just a very interesting, and I don't like to use the word arduous because guys have been through so much. We were in a cold building because of so much equipment with air conditioning. Oftentimes during that heavy period in the Christmas bombing, we didn't go to lunch or anything like that. They brought a gag bag for us from the galley with a sandwich and some chips and a Kool-Aid thing, and we just stayed on board. And we had a mission to do, although we were young guys, 18, 19, maybe 20. We understood the gravity of what we were doing. We were sending messages out to the fleet, and these were important messages that had had everything to do with their mission. So we accomplished that, and we were very proud of what we did. But just whenever the conversation last week got into the TTY repairman, I could see the guy that was in my section or whatever. He had these little tools in his pocket. They looked like little hooks and things like that he would reach into the because there were little springs in there, and he would just reach in there and pull stuff around and oil it and do all kind of cool stuff. And it brought back some memories. And I sent a picture of our Radium and A school. And if you could just bring that up real quick, I want to make a comment.
Okay, I will bring that up.
All right. Okay, that's the Radium and A school. Look how many Radium we were sending to the fleet. And that was just one class. And there was a mirror class in San Diego. Okay, and there must have been 10, 15 classes like that. All these Radium were going to the fleet at that period of time. And this was April 1971. Okay, so the push was on. And you can notice we had four female sailors, 4 waves, real good kids, smart, easygoing, hard workers. We were real proud of them. But interesting, that was before females can go out to sea and be on combatant vessels. So those girls went to DC and worked at the communication station there, worked for the captains and the officers. And perhaps that was good for them as well. But those guys, that was just like 30, 40 guys, and that was multiplied by that whole year. And they would just send whole classes out to certain areas that were in heavy demand. Okay, for example, the communication station in the Philippines. Okay, they were running real short-handed. Well, finally, the commanding officer recognized it, and I'll just say pull some strings over at naval personnel. After one of these classes graduated, they just sent the whole crew, the whole class over to that communication center, untrained on teletype and all this other stuff. But you got up to speed fast because you knew you had good NCOs, good leaders motivating you. But you realize what the mission was in 1971 when Nixon was bombing Hanoi and trying to end the war and all the stuff that history tells us.
And I think somebody has said, I think it was Rick Weber here, that the most important person in any military unit is somebody who controls the communication.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I mean, even apologies to Matt Cahill, even the medic isn't as important, because if you can't get the communication out to the medic to get there, or the evac or whatever it is, it's not going to happen. And so, I mean, think about that, Don. Look at this class, this huge class, and you say times that by 10, you do get a sense of how many people the military trained in communications, how this was absolutely probably of all the technology, even weapons, this was the cutting edge technology because it
yeah.
had to be fast, it had to be accurate, it had to be encryptable. And teletypes did that.
And I think the most important point that you made was encryptable. You know, our
Yeah.
we had crypto gear that would change on Ray Day, radio day, and there's some complexities there. I was an operator. I evolved onto working the Commander Seventh Fleet USS Oklahoma City, and that's when CT Commander Task Force 77 was on board, and that's the admiral's group. So the admiral got all the traffic, plus the ship's traffic was being sent. I had 6 send units. I'm not teasing. I was telling my wife this morning that we're gonna have this little conversation. Guys used to light my cigarette for me. Okay,
Oh,
I'd be typing
oh,
on each stand and just hit it.
yeah.
It's funny. Out of high school, I could type 60, 70 words a minute, no problem. And in the Navy, you had to type 20 words a minute with 5 or less errors. So for the first 6 weeks, to be honest with you, I skated pretty good. I didn't tell the chief that I know how to do this already because then I would be out shoveling snow. So I says, I'll just sit back and type and I can and listen to Morse code. I can do this. And when I got on board at the Fleet Center, I was pretty proficient. So I was pretty quickly put on one of the bigger stations, and I was able to handle that 6 send and receive. But I had guys just winding that tape up, butterflying it was called. You put the tape in a figure eight category off your thumb and your finger, and you wind it up so it doesn't snag, it doesn't get tangled. And like I said, it was just a time. Time went fast because like I said, you were 12 on, 12 off. We stayed a little bit longer sometimes if your buddies were jammed up, man. You had to get this stuff out. And it was just a time I won't forget. I'm still in touch with a couple of guys that I served with. And interesting, and I'm doing this as well. They all filed for
Hearing
claims,
loss.
hearing
Hearing
loss
loss.
claims. Yeah,
You
I'm in the
bet.
process of filing mine. I just had a test last week at the VA, and I don't say it's automatic, but it's pretty much automatic
Oh, yeah.
because just the sound. And I don't want to say, there's guys that had artillery going over their head for 6 weeks or something like that. I'm listening to the teletype and banging around all the time,
But still,
but
yeah,
still,
you're,
it deteriorates your hearing
yeah,
because that static noise
yep,
constantly like that.
yep.
What the doctor told me is because after the service, I worked in a bank or in an office, so I was never subjected to a lot of noise, and I don't wear headbuds, and I was
Yeah.
never a big concert guy or anything like that. So they attributed it to my military service.
Now, okay, stupid question here, Don, and I'm going to ask Rick Harrisman. Says this image brings back memories. This is a dumb question. It's so dumb that even I think I know the answer, and that is, you can't read this just by looking at it.
I
Can
could.
you?
Back
You
in the day, I
could.
could. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You could
Oh,
read this
yes.
and say what it says.
There was no printing. I can't do it now because too much time has passed. But you learn right away that that's just binary numbers. For example, let's just say the Z was the first punch and the last punch. So you had to go log that into your manual log, pen and paper, right on. I sent message 123 to the USS Constellation, which their call sign was NNUL. So you can look on there and see the NNUL message number 123.
Wow.
You simply read that just like you're reading. You know how the stockbrokers are reading the stock
Yeah.
market when it comes off the teletype and back in those old pictures from the 30s.
This is so
The
interesting.
thing coming out like that.
So that's really a lost art. I
It
mean,
is
a
a
lost
lost art. But
skill.
what's funny, they didn't tell 1 minute of that when we were in communication school, and all the guys said the same thing. What the hell is all this stuff? And we were still young guys, man. We come in, you get a little bit wild-eyed when you come into this fleet center. There's a huge computer spitting out paper, spitting out this tape, guys yelling, what the heck is this?
Right.
And then you were expecting one thing, and all of a sudden they say, "Here, learn this," and it's OJT. No one's going to sit
Yeah.
and hold your hand. They're not. They shouldn't. And you go up and try to. They started you earlier on, like maybe you had one ship, like a small destroyer that got 5 messages an hour or something like that. You could pace yourself and figure this stuff out. However, when you evolved, especially when it got very busy because of the increased bombing and the presence of the Seventh Fleet out in the Gulf of Tonkin, you learned very quickly. You had to read that stuff. You could never keep up. If you didn't know how to read that, you would never be able to log your messages in, or if it was called torn tape. That tape was, it's just paper tape. So if it was torn, you had to repair that in some way. So you had to go back and find out where the tear was. What was that word that was lost? That's very critical. So then you went in and read the tape, and you went on to another printer and read um, retyped the tape so the message was complete. That's why it was so important to butterfly those tapes, not leave them on the deck like that, because again, it would come up to your knees. It was coming out so fast, and it was quite an experience, man. It really was. I was hoping Ranger Rick or someone else that had some radioman or even CTR background on that. They pretty much experienced some of the same thing. Again, Guam was the tip of the spear, lack of better
Yeah,
word.
epicenter of the communications for
Because the Seventh
Vietnam.
Fleet was all around it, and
Yeah,
that's where we were. Yeah.
right. Oh, how interesting. Rick Erisman, you remember this? Do you call it ticker tape?
I just called it tape. No, I didn't have a memory like Don. I couldn't read it, but the machine did. We typed it, ran it back through. We did a lot of CAS reps, sit reps, you name it, all kinds of message traffic. Some were flashes that we received, had to route to the CO. But anyhow, that class photo you show image reminded me it could have been my class. Looked exactly the same. And I attribute learning typewriting in high school to my success as a radioman using the teletype in the Navy and into word processing now. That saved me.
How neat. And were you guys called tape apes?
No.
Not you, but Don.
Yes. That was every Marine's a rifleman or something like that. We were tape apes because it was just something fun. We had a patch, you put it on your jacket, and you were recognized at the communication station. You weren't a transmitter guy, you weren't a receiver guy. Tape apes were a whole different area of being a radioman. We were all called Sparks. Okay, because of you can see the insignia with the kind of lightning bolts, but we were the subset known as tape apes, and we said that with pride because we knew our mission was important and we carried it through professionally.
Don, do you recall changing the security tapes?
Absolutely.
GMT, midnight GMT.
That's right.
Every night.
That's on Ray Day, yeah. And I think it was called the KM7, KYM7, something like that. There was a phaser on it, and Tech Control would handle it off-site, off our fleet center down below. Yeah. And we'd all have to sync our machines with them. It was really interesting. It really was.
Of course, you were in a different zone than I was. Yeah. We had a lot easier.
Yeah. Again, it was an interesting time, and there's a book I just picked it up on Kindle. It's not for everybody. It was a guy. The title of the book is "Huh? What did you say?" And the guy was in the Philippines at a tape relay center, and he came on board when they were real short-handed, and he restructured some things. It's only a 71-page book. To me and you, Rick, we would enjoy it. Probably anybody else is a little dry, but it was still well written from a guy's memories, similar to what I'm blabbering about this afternoon.
You're doing very well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Don, and thank you, Rick. I'm looking at the clock. I want to welcome a couple people that I do not remember coming onto our program before. One is Tracy Lee. Hi, Tracy Lee. If you want to say hello and tell us who you are and why you're here, please do feel free. And the other is Reverend Ben Nelson. I don't recall Reverend Ben being on our program before. Hi, Tracy Lee.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Are you a veteran?
I am.
And what branch of service?
I was in the Navy.
When were you in the Navy?
I joined in 2002 and medically discharged in 2003.
Okay. And you, how did you find out about this program tonight?
I actually live 2 doors down from Matt.
Oh, well, we call that cheating. That's cheating. You should.
Totally cheating.
Well, very good. Thank you. I appreciate you joining us. I hope that you found this interesting. So you spent a year in the Navy only.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little less than that, actually.
A little less than a year. Think about that. A little less than a year, and I won't guess your age, but that's a small fraction of your life.
Very small fraction of my life.
How did that period in the Navy affect your life?
Uh, sorry, my children. Um, I come from a family of veterans. We're a huge Navy and Marine Corps family. I'm the only female in my family that joined. That's all I ever wanted. That short stint that I did spend, I absolutely loved and enjoyed it. However, I guess during a training exercise, I ended up breaking my legs in 7 spots and have permanent damage that was not able to rejoin.
Oh, that must
Um,
be I'm sorry, can I call you Tracy?
yeah,
Or do you
absolutely.
go by Tracy Lee?
Either or.
Okay, Tracy Lee. Um, that must have been devastating.
Oh, that was heartbreaking.
Completely. This is all you ever wanted, and now you can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It was rough. It wasn't a good time afterwards.
How have you compensated for that, or how have you adjusted to this reality that life, threw you off the path that you thought you were on?
Um, you just kind of have to, pull up your big girl panties and figure it out and
And
um
exactly.
and figure out what's next. I didn't really I kind of goofed off in school because this was my only I was never doing anything else. This was all I ever wanted to do was the military, and so I did not try very hard in high school or anything, and so I didn't get to I didn't do college or anything like that afterwards. So I went into became a hairdresser, and then once I couldn't be on my legs anymore with that, with
Oh.
everything, all the injuries. Worked for the railroad for a little bit. Now I'm a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling my boys, and just getting my fulfillment out of that.
Yeah, and that's a heck of a job. I mean, homeschooling 2 boys or more than 2 boys. What would you say to them if they turned 18 and say, "Mom, I want to join the Navy or the Marine Corps"?
We've actually had this discussion. Our oldest is 7 years old, and we've had this discussion with him that he asks what happens after high school. And I've said your options after high school are you either go to college, you join a trade, or you join the military. That's
Yeah.
it. If they want to join the military, I will support them 100%. I didn't get a whole lot of support with being a female, so I want my boys to just do what they want to do. And our oldest has mentioned wanting to join the Space Force, so we'll
Good.
work on that.
He's a smart kid. That's good. Trey, so what did your family not support your decision to join the Navy, even though they were a military family?
Not completely. So I am in my 40s. Just to say where my age range is. My grandfather was in World War II. He was in the first division of Seabees. He was the 69th. So he was my hero growing up. He was why I was joining. He was not happy that that was my choice.
Yep.
At all.
Yep.
A woman's place is at home and raising babies.
Yep.
Not in the military, and especially for what I was choosing air rescue.
Wow.
So he was really not a fan of that at all. And my parents very begrudgingly emancipated me so that I could join early. They weren't hugely proud, like
Yeah.
excited about it, but
Yeah.
yeah, all my uncles and everything made some pretty crude jokes to try to get me prepared for what I was going to be dealing with
Oh.
being a female and everything. But I didn't deal with a whole lot of what they were trying to get me prepared for.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, there was a bit of pushback with doing that, but I
Tracy,
didn't care.
it strikes me very much that you are a veteran and that you have a story. And our slogan here at the Veterans Breakfast Club is every veteran has a story. But I imagine that you might have, just going through life, you might kind of not advertise that you're a Navy veteran. Maybe you don't wear a Navy veteran t-shirt. Maybe you don't wear that cap or have a bumper sticker.
I don't have the bumper sticker or the cap. I do have a couple of shirts, just from going through therapy, that has made me realize that I do still count as a veteran, even though I don't. When I would go to the veterans hospitals, I definitely did not feel like I belonged there.
Yep.
There was men and women there that are missing limbs and
Yep.
everything, and I didn't even get to leave the state.
Well, Trace,
Um,
well, here's another question. When you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, do you park in the veteran designated parking spot? You should. If you have if your legs are, if you have a, especially if you have a problem walking, I mean, that you absolutely are a military veteran. I'm sorry, I'm just pushing this because well, I've run across this so often that somebody who has a really hard experience kind of getting out of the military, that often don't, especially women, often don't embrace that identity as veteran.
I definitely feel I would feel really horrible if I took that spot and there was somebody that needed it a little bit more than me. I will, on bad days, I will park in handicap, because I do have a tag. On bad days, I will do that. But as far as like the veteran and that parking,
Okay. Tracy
I
Lee,
don't feel
I'm
right
sorry.
doing that.
I'm not going to let this go. I'm just going to challenge you sometime in the next couple months when you go, park it, just do it. You could do it for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, park in the veterans designated spot and see how that feels. And if some guy comes up to you and says, honey, that's for veterans only, that's when you say, sir, I served. Thank you so much, Tracy Lee, for coming on and sharing a little bit of your story. I find this really
Thanks for
interesting.
asking.
Thanks. And I want to go to Reverend Ben Nelson. You're also a Navy veteran, correct?
Correct. I'm a Navy veteran. I actually joined the Navy. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I did not want to be on the front line. So I joined the Navy because I figured I'd be somewhere in the ship out to sea or somewhere like that. But fortunately, I say now, I ended up being a Navy corpsman attached to the Marines. So I got exactly what I didn't sign up for, but it made a man out of me today.
Oh my gosh.
It made a man out of me today. And not only was I a corpsman, and this kind of reflected the conversation we had a little earlier, I had knowledge of the radio. I had knowledge of the motor, the mileage of the M60. Everything that was around, I had knowledge of that because I believe it like this. At one point, I may have to take charge of that position. That's how I looked at it. I had my 45 on my side, my knife, and my M16. So I guess they would call me Gunji. I was Gunji. But I had a good experience out of it. It made a man out of me. And right now, I'm working for a veterans organization. What we do is we try to help veterans, attach them to resources, all kind of information, anything that can help a veteran is what we do on the platform of our podcast, Untold Valor, which I send an invitation out to anybody who wishes to speak on there. Actually, Sean Hall is coming on tomorrow to broadcast tomorrow. But I'm so glad that you guys are here, and this is a good thing you have going here. And I want to promote it. I want people to know that the Veterans Breakfast Club is here. Thank you.
Reverend Ben, can you tell us about Compeer Corps? That is the nonprofit that you work for, and
Yes.
tell us a little bit about it and how people could reach and find out more.
Okay, well, what we do, one of the main things we do is we try to match veterans with other veterans who are suffering through mental health challenges, maybe even substance abuse challenges, or just challenges, period. Because one of the things we found, isolation is one of the main things that leads to suicide. So we try to give veterans companionship. And I know we were out in the bush and out on the seas, it was like every man for every man, no one for himself. But it seems like I go to a lot of posts all over the area. And I hate to say it, but the drinking is taking over more than the companionship. We need to remember why we're here. We're here to remember and keep that bond going as veterans. So what we do is we match veterans up with volunteer veterans, and we have all kind of events: horseback riding, bowling parties. I put together a camping trip, fishing trip next year. Things to keep veterans in circulation in society. Like I said, anything we can do for veterans, we're kind of a boots on the ground type of organization because I go into communities and I meet people face to face where they are and try to bring veterans out of situations that are hindering them from moving forward. So we try to help people change. and empower them to know that, yes, you do have a chance to be a productive member in society, especially being a veteran.
I will echo Mary Klepper's chat in here that says Reverend Ben is awesome. I agree. And then Sean Hall, you said you're going to try and match Reverend Ben's energy. Good luck with that. If Reverend Ben, your congregation, woe be to any your congregant who falls asleep while you're while you're talking. I'm sure they don't. This is absolutely fascinating. I'd love you to come on again if you don't mind and talk about your service too. Talk about your service as a Navy corpsman.
I would love to. I would love to.
Very good. I will be contacting you about that. Thank you all tonight, Matt, Reverend Ben, Tracy Lee, and to all of you who participated in this conversation. I appreciate your participation, and we covered a lot of ground. All right. Good night, everybody. I hope to see you Thursday night. We're going to have open conversation, World War II. Take